Hello guys, so welcome back again to another amazing episode, and this is a diaspora transition episode where we speak with people who moved back from the diaspora and currently living here on the continent or even coming back and forth. We ask them why you decided to come to Ghana, Africa, and what you're doing here, what challenges you're facing. And on this episode, we have here someone very special. I've seen him everywhere, and he's, Enstooled as a chief, somewhere in Elmina. And I'm so privileged to have him here on the show today. And without further ado, Rashard, Mr. Rashard.
Yes.
Is it Chief?
Nana Chief.
Nana, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
And I've read a lot about you. I saw you on TV in TV3.
Yeah.
And you were talking about why you decided to come to Ghana.
Yeah.
And I have you here today. People don't know who you are. Can you please briefly introduce yourself to my audience for the first time?
My name is Rashard Mccrocrey. I'm the owner of Africa Cross Culture, where we organize trips to the African countries of Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Uganda. I currently live in Ghana in the Central region in the historical town of Elmina. I am the newly installed Rashard Mccrocrey, Chief of Tourism of Itre, which is the first town in Elmina coming from Accra. As far as my stool, the Chief of Tourism, it's the first ever Chief of Tourism in all of Ghana. And it's been an honor because it's not only the village of Itre, the first town in Elmina. Elmina, some may say, is the most historic town in West Africa once you come into the colonial period. So, can I give you some interesting facts about Elmina?
Yes.
So let me put an asterisk, let me put a disclaimer. Mm-hmm. This is post-European settlement in Africa. Elmina is the place where the first schools in all of West Africa. The first school in West Africa was built in Elmina.
Wow.
Again, disclaimer. Africa, West Africa, East Africa has had school for 20, 30, 100,000, a million years. But in terms of colonialism, Elmina is the place where the first school in West Africa was built. Elmina is the place where the first church in West Africa was built.
Oh, wow.
The first Christmas in West Africa was celebrated in Elmina. In terms of Ghana, Independence Square is known as the place where Ghana has gained its independence. However, the first rally, the first public rally for independence was held in Elmina in 1947.
Wow.
Elmina, in terms of the infamous slave dungeon door no return, Elmina slave dungeon is the first European settlement in all of West Africa. And just Elmina as a whole, in terms of once colonialism started, is arguably the most historic town in West Africa.
Wow.
And for Ghanaians,
Yeah.
UCC, University of Cape Coast, it was built on Elmina land. The government asked Elmina for land to build a university. At the time, Elmina didn't know that they was going to call it University of Cape Coast.
Yes,
and then when the lines were redrawn, that became all of Cape Coast. The town that installed me, Itre, is the first town in Elmina. So let's say, for example, the fact is it's a bridge. It's a bridge that's probably about 2 minutes, a 2-minute walk, probably from, you can't really see it, but for you, probably the end of this kitchen to where the entrance is.
Oh, wow.
So the bridge is probably only that long. It's not long at all. You can walk in it probably 1 or 2 minutes. When you hit the first part of the bridge, you're still in Cape Coast. When you get to the end of the bridge, you're officially in Elmina, and you're in the town of Itre, the town that I was installed Chief of Tourism.
Wow.
So that also was his significant. Yeah.
No, I that's amazing. And
Yeah.
instruction meaning visits.
Visit and see.
Why did they give you that title, the people of Elmina? If you don't mind me asking, I want to understand.
And also, Itre and Elmina is interchangeable. The Oman Hen Nana Konjua the sixth. I'm sorry, Nana Konjua the sixth. He also took me in and ceremoniously gave me jurisdiction over all of Elmina. And they gave me that stool first because Elmina and Itre specifically is a village where many Black Americans reside. specifically. They stay at famous hotels in the Black American community and famous restaurants in the Black community, in the Black American community. However, many of the Black Americans who visit there, who live there, dozens of Black Americans own land in Ytre. None of them ever joined the family. Respectfully to them, none of them ever contributed to the community. Ytre has said that I was the first Black American to ever move to Ytre and join the family.
Wow.
Join the royal family. I go to the meetings, the monthly meetings. I pay my family dues. I pay my funeral dues. I'm on with the family. I dine with the family. I spend more time with the family than I do other Black Americans. So they wanted to honor me with the Stool for being the first Black American in this area that's populated and saturated with Black Americans to actually join the family. And then they said, Rashard, we want to give you a stool, a specific stool that's catered to your lifestyle, that's natural for you. Again, as I told you before, I have a tourism company, Africa Cross Culture. Tourism is my passion. My first trip to Ghana was 2015. I started my tourism company 2016, and I've been doing tours in Africa since 2017. My first tours were to Ghana, my second tours were to Egypt. Those started in 2017. I started promoting back to Africa on Instagram back as far as 2014.
Wow.
So if you go to my Instagram page, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. You see 2013 social justice, Black empowerment post, and then starting in 2014, you'll see a GoFundMe for my first trip to Ghana.
Oh, wow.
You see that in 2014. So they said, Rashard, we want to give you a stool that fits your lifestyle. You shouldn't have to be situated in the town, or you can't leave the town, or you can't go away for a long time.
Right.
We want you to be you. And by Elmina also being a significant tourist attraction with Elmina Slave Dungeon and the naming ceremonies, a town that's starting to build itself strictly based on tourism, they decided that tourism would be a stool given to me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I have to congratulate you on that, but I want to ask you, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
How did the journey to Africa started for you? What, what would be the right word for it? What gave birth to that idea of coming to the continent? Because I can hear your accent and I see a little bit of African American accent, in there.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm what you call foundational Black American. I was born and raised in Harlem, New York. My mother and father are from South Carolina. My grandparents are from South Carolina. My great-grandparents are from South Carolina.
Wow.
My great-great-grandparents from South Carolina.
Wow.
We trace being in America back to the 1800s.
Wow.
I personally never did a DNA
That's
test.
like 2,000 years?
200.
200, sorry.
200,
200, yeah.
And Black Americans have been in the on North America, was today called the United States, for tens of thousands of years.
Right.
Yeah, there's pyramids in America that they just call it mountains. There's statues, Olmec statues. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So you're right, so you are right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm from. That's why you hear my Black American accent. I'm Black American. I'm foundational Black American. My parents moved to Harlem in 1965. My parents are both from South Carolina. They moved to Harlem as individual people in 1965, and they met in Harlem.
Wow.
My father was raised Christian, but once he moved to Harlem, he was engulfed, inspired by the Harlem Renaissance, the later years of the Harlem Renaissance, where he started learning about African spirituality and also learning about Black empowerment. So he went to places, for some of the older people who may listen to this video, he used to study at Convent Avenue on 145th Street, 125th Street, which is a mecca for Black America and knowledge even to this day. He read hundreds of books, listened to hundreds of tapes, and my father started teaching me about the great kings and queens of West Africa back when I was 5 years old. He started teaching me about the great kings and queens and the pharaohs of Egypt around that same time, like Ptah-hotep, the 7 books of the wise instructions.
Wow.
He always taught me that Black was beautiful and not to believe what you see in TV about Africa. So I know I was as young as 5 years old because when I was 6, my favorite baseball team won the World Series.
Wow.
And I remember we was in a new apartment when we were celebrating the World Series win. But the lessons come from my old apartment. And I remember my father teaching me about libations and teaching
Libations?
libations, yeah. my father teaching me about giving food to the ancestors, sending out some of your food for the ancestors, and again, reading and
Interesting.
documenting books.
Wow.
Yeah, I was raised on African spirituality.
Okay.
I dabbed in Christianity for some time, but I was raised African spirituality. So that's where my passion for Africa comes. So it's really like in me.
Wow.
Like it really was like how I was molded as a child, and then it just come to fruition with me as an adult.
Okay, so your father identified himself as an African.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
well,
the reason why I asked that,
yeah,
people
go ahead.
say that they don't come from Africa, but they look just like you and I.
Yeah.
And they believe they are native to the land of America.
Yeah.
Did your dad identify as Native American or recognize himself with African and try to
Well,
teach you about African culture?
My father always taught me not to be a this or that person, yes or no person, to be a both and person. So my father always acknowledged that we all come from Africa. We all originated from Africa, even if it go back to like Panacea. My father also acknowledged that Black Americans were indigenous to what is the modern day United States, way before Amerigo Vespucci, Christopher Columbus, way before the 1500s or anybody ever went to the United States. So my father always acknowledged that many of us are indigenous to America, many of us came over the slave ships, and with Black American history, we were all put together, and our history was stripped from us. So unless there's documentation, and some people even go as far as saying DNA, which I'm not 100% on board with yet, even though I do respect it.
Right.
Many of us don't actually truly ever know unless we can trace.
Right.
You know, we can trace my family. We can trace our documented history to the 1800s. But where were we in the 1200s? Where were we in 800?
Right.
We don't know. Where were we? You know, BC.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
2000 BC.
Yes.
You know, so my father identified as African in his roots. My father loved being Black American. My father loved Black empowerment. My father loved Mother Africa. He raised his son. If you can't say my father didn't love Africa. Look at his son.
Yes.
And his son is
Yes.
telling you
Yes.
that he raised him on
Yes.
Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
My
Yes.
father loved Bob Marley. My father loved W.B. Du Bois. My father loved why is his name? I'm slipping my mind right now. But Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. My father loved Malcolm X. My father was so on Martin Luther King because my father did
Wow.
see the effects of desegregation. So my father's a great man who inspired me. He passed away in 2018.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you did touch down in 2015 to Ghana
Yeah.
for the first time.
Yeah.
Now, why did you choose Ghana specifically? Why Ghana? You could
Yeah.
have chosen any other African country, but you chose Ghana specifically. Why?
Yes, I went with a school. I went with a degree that I was studying at the time, and we had a course called the Cross Culture course. And with the cross culture course, groups of students were given suggestions for about 5 to 7 different countries that they can visit and do a cultural exchange program. The only African country on that list for my year was Cameroon. So the trip was supposed to be for 2015, but obviously we start preparing for the trip in 2014. However, the 2014 Cameroon Ebola outbreak happened.
Oh wow.
So the school wanted to cancel the trip to all African countries. They started saying, let's go to South Korea, let's start going to El Salvador, let's go to Jamaica was the only Caribbean island. They said Montana to study Native Americans like Tonto and Pocahontas, respectfully, just to get, there's Indians from India and there's Native Americans. So they wanted us to do Montana. But I led a coalition, and I said, this is back in 2014 now. I said, Africa is 54 different countries. Africa is not one big country. Africa is one continent, 54 different countries. And then I identified Ghana. I said, Ghana has always been friendly and welcoming to Black Americans. Ghana has right of abode. And Ghana has 0 cases of Ebola. I was about to say coronavirus. Has no cases of Ebola. So after signing about 1 million liability waivers, it was really like a stack of papers like this big. We had to sign them all for liability.
Really?
So if something happened to us out there, the school wouldn't
They
be
don't.
liable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a group of about 30 of us. So the group of 30 had cut down to about 11. Had cut down to about 11. So so a lot of people didn't want to take that chance. It was like Ebola, African diseases. Similar to a lot of
So
people.
it scared them off from coming to.
Similar to the coronavirus.
Yeah.
People want to say, I stayed in Ghana during the coronavirus. I stayed in Africa during the coronavirus. They said 75% of Black Americans who was on the African continent went back to America during the
Wow,
pandemic.
really?
Yes,
But you stayed.
I stayed.
Why did you stay? What gave you that courage? Because when you turn on your television during the pandemic, it's I just don't want to get too much into it, but it's frightening.
Yeah. Well, I'm from New York City. New York City was where all those frightening videos was coming
Yeah.
from. Ground zero of the pandemic. I have a history of asthma, and then I just felt in my spirit I'm not a doctor. I know not everybody agree, but I said that's a cold weather virus. That's a northern hemisphere virus. That virus is not down here. Just like Ebola was never really in United States. Some of Ebola touched Florida, but then it died out.
Yeah.
The coronavirus came here, but it died out. So I said, Rashard, don't go back to New York. You see people are dying. Obese people that people who have asthma, people who smoke a lot of cigarettes that were passing away.
Yeah.
You would be a prime candidate to get sick out there and really have some issues out there. Then on the flip side with Ghana, I have a lot of great relationships with Ghanaians. I've been visiting Ghana for 5 years, and I was like, I made a lot of good decisions. I have money saved up, for the most part. At that time, I wasn't balling, but I said, I have enough money to figure it out.
So you
and
moved.
I took that chance.
Now I see a lot of African Americans moving to Ghana,
Yeah.
and then most of them are saying America is doomed and stuff like that. I want to ask you, from your perspective, what do you think is happening to America right now, or happening in America, and why do you think most African Americans are flooding to the continent right now?
Yeah, since 1619, when the first slave ships landed in Jamestown, Virginia, blacks in America has always been the victim of slavery, systematic oppression, and racism. So, people say the end of slavery ended in 1865, but you also have, Jim Crow laws. You still have current struggles like the prison industrial complex. You have redlining, where black Americans don't get the proper loans to buy houses, to start businesses. You have environmental injustice, where our homes are near power lines and we have higher rates of cancer, or near highways and we have higher rates of asthma. We need education reform. We have schools that may look good compared to some schools we find here in West Africa and all of Africa, besides the higher end schools. But we don't have the best school books. Our school books are outdated. Our computers have slow Wi-Fi still. For the most part, for many schools. Don't be the person saying, well, not every school. But for the most part, most of these schools still deal with education reform that's much needed. So black, police brutality. So a lot of blacks in America are under a lot of stress that makes them want to get out of America. The human body, and especially us, people of African descent, because Africans on the continent have this ability too, we have a high ability to adapt to any strenuous situation. But unfortunately, we're still dying because of the stress. And then once black Americans start coming to Ghana and start coming to other sub-Saharan African countries, they start seeing that there's a life absent of systematic oppression and racism. There's a life where if the police stop you, you're not a threat to being killed or put in jail. A lot of people say, oh, you can get killed by the police. You may not always get killed by the police, but you can always get put in jail.
Yeah.
You can always get groped. Get groped.
What is that?
Felt up, patted down,
Okay,
and grabbing your genitals. Talk about they checking for drugs and weapons, and you ain't got no drugs and weapons. You can always have your identification checked, and they could just pull you in for anything. They lie on police reports. So when you start coming to Ghana, and the police might just ask you for 2 CDs, 10 CDs. We're not going to talk about immigration. Immigration is the bullies here.
Yeah.
But you start seeing black politicians, black doctors, black lawyers, black actors, black entertainers, black billboards, black business owners. When you're in Black America, you see the Chinese stores, you see the Korean stores, you see the Indian stores, you see the white supermarkets, you see the Latino stores, you see the Yemeni stores. Here you have a lot of Lebanese here. In America, we have Yemenis, which is the same thing, just a different country. It's like saying Nigeria and Ghana.
Yeah.
Yemenis, Lebanese. Here, black people, we only have barbershops, we only have churches, some of the Black American women have beauty salons, you know, and then a lot of beauty salons are owned by Africans. This is one of the few cases where you see me distinguish Africans and African Americans and Americans. So even coming out here, just Blacks seeing that people with their same skin color have a monopoly on all the businesses, they start to have a sense of freedom.
Okay. Wow.
You know, and once you start living a life free of systematic oppression and racism, the game changes for a lot of people.
I like that. Now, let's go back one more time. What were you doing in the U.S. before you moved to the continent?
Immediately before, I was a pretty successful New York City party promoter. Party promoter, RMC Entertainment. I was about a B plus level party promoter. So on my second trip to Ghana, when I was looking for business opportunities, I said to myself, if I can get 40 to 50 people to party in New York City every weekend, I can get 40 to 50 people a year to come visit Africa.
Wow.
And then pretty much I took my party promotion skills and I used it to promote my tourism company.
Wow.
My flyers for tourism company, I used the same people who was doing my flyers for parties. You know, the same way I figured out how to budget for a party, you know, I used that to budget for a trip.
Wow.
And then, you know,
So since 2015 till now, how many people have you brought from the U.S. to Ghana so far?
I believe that from 2015 to now, to Ghana, I'm probably a little around approximately 400.
400.
In all of Africa, I'm approximately around 600.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's
do bulk visits. I do bulk visits, and then people trickle throughout the year.
Wow. Now, why did you choose Egypt too? Because
7 wonders of the world, the Great Giza pyramids, the Sphinx. Again, my father taught me about ancient Egypt. Like now we see Egypt as Egyptians that look like Lebanese, Yemenis, you know. But the people who built the pyramids, the people who built the Sphinx look like you and me. The people in the Hebrew Bible, Moses, Daniel, Solomon, you know, all those people, they look like us.
Yeah.
You know, they want to put them on TV as Europeans, and now they call themselves being woke, and now they're trying to say that they put Arabs on TV like Moon Knight, Marvel's Moon Knight, ancient Egypt, or even Black Adam. They do ancient Egypt, and now they want to call themselves being woke, but then they still make them Arab. They wasn't Arab. They look like you and me. You know, if we could go back in time to when the pyramids was built, you're gonna see us.
But then they say it's built by aliens.
Yeah, we were the aliens. We aliens now. We trendsetters now.
Yeah. We
think out the box now. The internet was started by a Nigerian. You know, just little things like that they hide. You know, or the prototype for the modern day internet.
But knowing that itself, I mean, you're very knowledgeable from your dad and the knowledge he passed down to you and what he taught you. You seem to know who you are as a person. But let's say people are watching. People are watching from the US, and you know they are not as privileged as, you know, the ignorance and the stereotype on TV might have clouded their judgment. What do you think they look at Africa like, and then how do they identify themselves as in Black people?
In modern day, you don't have an excuse, and I'm sure if they're watching your YouTube video, they may not be as ignorant as the person who's not watching. The person who's watching, you know, OG Block. You know, shot from O Block, you know, Jacksonville murders. You know, with the internet, with social media, with YouTube, there's more of an opportunity. My father used to have books and tape cassettes, and used to have to physically go out to seminars. Now YouTube is your tape deck, is your book, is your seminar, and you can watch it from your home. So now you have more power to kind of mold your brain, to kind of shape your brain. Growing up as children, we had curriculums in school where the government, the state, determined what we have in our brain, in our hearts, in our mind. But you as an adult, and I'm pretty sure, you know, YouTube said you can't do this under 14 and under ages and something like that. You as an adult, you have the power to what you let be in your mind. I'll go back to some of my Christian days. You know, they say protect your ear gate, protect your eye gate, protect your mind gate. You have the power over what you allow into your mind. So if we already see all these YouTube channels, all of the dozens upon dozens of YouTube channels and dozens of stories that's showing you Accra infrastructure, Kenya infrastructure, that's showing you the nightlife, the 5-star hotels and things of that nature. You shouldn't. Anybody under 60, anybody under 70 shouldn't be calling me. 55. Anybody under a certain age shouldn't be asking me, are they going to eat me? Are they going to kidnap me?
Someone sent me an email and they were asking if there's cockroaches in Africa.
Yeah, there's cockroaches in Africa. There's cockroaches in Harlem. Can I tell you a guilty secret?
Yes, sure.
My favorite sound in Africa. My favorite sound in all of Africa right now
Yeah.
is when baby goats get lost.
Oh.
And when they start crying.
Oh yeah.
They're like, man. I promise you. You might think it's a
Where did
cat.
that come from,
bro? When you say cockroach, I started thinking about animals and stuff.
No, actually, someone sent me an email, and you're like, you're a couple, and they've retired, but they are looking to move to the continent, and they wanted to ask if there's cockroaches here because they are allergic or something like that.
No,
I'm not
water
sure.
bugs, cockroaches, yeah.
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 So I'm like, we need to move here.
Dealing
Not
with roaches is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
But how are you adapting? Because obviously, you fit in quite well. Like how you dine with the natives, and then you associate yourself with the society. What makes you fit in so easily like that?
I was raised that way. Even my first trip, even down to the 11 who came, a lot of them were still clicking up with each other and didn't want to talk to natives. Like I know we all, most diasporans get annoyed when it comes to the money situation and always feeling like people ask you for money, but always feeling people trying to scam you out of money. With that being said, other than that, I really wanted more to engulf with the people. Another fun fact about me that people don't acknowledge when I talk about my spiritual calling. My major in undergrad, when I went to college from 97 to 2002, was sociology, anthropology. Sociology is the study of different people from different communities around the world. Anthropology is the study of cultures, traditions. So it was always a passion in me I want to learn people. I want to learn the different languages. I want to learn the difference between gods and airways. Aquapim and Ashantis. Infantis. I want to know what's the difference between a Hausa and Tamalit and a Hausa and Lagos. Things of that. What's the difference between an Igbo and a Hausa? So that's just a passion within me. Even now, I'm apartment shopping in Accra, and part of me is like, maybe I should live in God area and start learning how to speak God and learning how God, just learning the difference. Maybe I could, learn from Osu and Jamestown and, and La, and things of that nature. They could call me Ni. Ni is Nana.
Yeah.
So it's just been a passion of mine. It's just,
but how do you overcome the challenges you face being on the continent living here?
I embrace it. I embrace it. One of the things that when I first started coming from the pandemic, a friend of mine said, I know you're on a budget and you didn't plan on living here. I know a place for you to live. He said, it's not the best, but I could tell you're a Rasta. And that was his way, that was his God way of saying that we know you're not Hasididi. We know you're not bourgeois. We know you're not going to be like, ew. Something like that. Like, we know we can put you in a place where you can get your feet on the ground. So like, I'm from the projects. So for those in Black America who really know Black American history, especially when it comes to location, not only am I from New York City, I'm from Harlem. Not only I'm from Harlem, but I'm from the Polo Grounds. I'm from the Polo Grounds projects, one of the most historical housing projects in all of Black America. The Polo Grounds where I'm from used to be home of the Polo Grounds baseball stadium, home of the New York Giants who moved to San Francisco and became the San Francisco Giants in modern day baseball.
Wow.
So the Polo Grounds project is a historical project in Harlem, New York, in all of America. The Polo Grounds is known as one of the historical housing projects. So that's where I'm from. So I was raised in what Ghanaians would call the village. So being in certain places that may not necessarily, be up to my normal American standards or even my normal standards now that I'm situated and I'm sorted. Even looking for a place in Accra, it's like, well, I don't mind taking a place that may not be the best until I find something that I really, really want.
Right.
So it's just about, understanding that it's not America. Some of the satellite companies are good, but you're not going to have instant Wi-Fi. You're going to have to pay a lot for internet. Sometimes your lights are going to go out. Sometimes your hot water is going to go out. Sometimes you're going to... I just learned for the first time... I'm a city man. I just learned for the first time roosters crow 24 hours a day. I was taught growing up roosters crow at 6 a.m. And that's it. Roosters crow 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 8 p.m. There's just going to be certain things that you get adjusted to no matter where you're from.
And then you wrote a book.
Yes.
Which helps people as well. Let's talk about it a little bit.
My new book now available on Amazon. Repatriation, tips and strategies for families and individuals moving to the African continent, now available on Amazon. It's 380 pages, 380 pages of tips, strategies, and real game. There's bonus sections that consist of how-tos like how to attain dual citizenship, how to avoid land disputes, which country in Africa should I move to. But the core of the book, the heart of the book, the body of the book is built on game tips and strategies that I live by. My inspiration for really taking the book seriously and really working as hard as I can on the book is that I felt like my mind and life was like a USB drive, a memory card, a hard disk, a hard drive.
Wow.
When you have too much information, there's no more room. So you can't store any more information. So the only way to store more information is to either delete all your information, transfer the files. So I said, Rashard, you're starting to feel stale. You need to just get everything out of you. Get everything out of you. Tell all your secrets, tell all your tips, tell all your strategies. And what my beliefs will be is that the ancestor, God, the universe, karma, universal principle will start downloading me with new, fresh, trailblazing ideas. So as I give people all my secrets and my competitors read it and innocent fans read it and people read it and then they're not making the same mistakes that I made and people say, oh, he didn't make that mistake, but you made, not knowing that he got it from me. You know, I take that chance in order to trust the divine universe, to trust God, to trust, you know, whatever powers may be, that I start getting new, fresh inspiration, new, fresh experiences, and that because I feel like I live in the future.
Yeah.
So I can't hold on to the past and also live in the future at the same time. I have to allow myself to have the freedom, to have the space, to have new downloads.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, you give third advice to people who are trying to, you know, follow your footsteps to move to the continent and be here permanently. What would be the third best advice, you know, for people like that?
The first chapter in the book is called No Matter Where You Go, There You Are. A lot of people believe that when they come to Mother Africa, the sky's going to open up, the ground's going to tremble, all their problems are going to go away. And what being in Africa does, it does take you out in an environment of systematic oppression and racism. But then what it does is it allows you to kind of look at your real self, your true self. Now you can't blame systematic oppression. You can't blame racism anymore. Now you have to deal with the you stuff. You know, so if you have a bad temper in America, you're going to have a bad temper in Africa. And I say Africa meaning all the different countries. If you get into toxic relationships in America, you're going to get into toxic relationships in Africa. Also, your gifts in America are going to be your gifts in Africa. Like my gift was party promotion, networking, and branding. Those are my same gifts here in Ghana. So if you're good in business in America, you're going to be good in business out here. Don't leave your street smarts behind. But you're going to be good. You're going to be doing good in business here. Another one of the strategies, it's okay to say no. Here, people are going to put a lot of pressure on you and try to really extend you far. They're going to ask for favor. They're going to ask you for obligations. You know, you have to learn how to say no, and that it's okay to say no. And not only is it okay to say no, the book also teaches you when it's okay to say yes. So those are two. 3, always see things for yourself. I know it's easy to fall for the I know somebody and I have this person who's going to look into this for me and look into that for me. But don't be afraid to come to the African choice, your African country of choice, and actually visit the locations for yourself. See the land that you want to buy for yourself. See the places that you want to live for yourself. And also a new section that I added, make sure you have proper paperwork. Stop this, I'm going to start calling it a myth that you could pay under the table for anything that you want in Africa. Yes, there's people who that you could give money to under the table for paperwork and documents. But at the end of the day, you're always susceptible of getting scammed if you don't have official, authentic paperwork signed by the courts. Because there's many people here now that signing papers, paying people under the table to get papers, and these papers are not official legal documents. We're talking about they're getting legal birth certificates, they're getting passports, they're getting all kind of legal documents through illegal ways, but then they turn around and being scammed through them. There are people who have businesses and who have certificate for businesses, but they don't know that. They don't have all the proper documents. These container stores are not giving people proper documents. So there's a lot of now, you know, as Black Americans moving to the continent, we have to start being more honorable in ourselves. You want to talk about Africans always being unethical and 419 and scamming. As
Yeah.
Black Americans, we have to start taking the next step and getting our paperwork done properly through the proper authorities, paying the real prices, which a lot of times are cheaper than the fake prices that they're giving
Yeah.
you. And getting the proper paperwork signed by the proper court officials.
I like that. Now let's talk about business a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think, you know, diaspora can move, you know, to the continent? What business do you think they can do here?
I think that's chapter 5 in the book.
Yeah.
Securing a bag. We talk about a lot of different agriculture businesses, a lot of business, agriculture, engineering, farming, banking institutions, e-commerce, drop shipping, transports, food, you know, processed food, which I hate to say processed foods is starting to become big business out here in Ghana. Real estate, quickest way to become a millionaire, real estate. So in terms of the book, we also go into about 20 different ideas for business.
Well, I like that. Now, thank you so much for talking to me. We are almost at the end of the conversation. If you do have a final message for the people watching you, what would that message be?
Just, you know, have faith. Don't let anything that I say or things that you have scare you. Don't be afraid to take the opportunity to visit the continent, to relocate to the continent and give it a try. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. But embrace the experience, embrace the opportunity. There's nothing wrong with having a story. Hey, I lived in Ghana for 6 months. Hey, I lived in Ghana for 3 years. I lived in South Africa for 3 years. You know, we have a long life and we need to just expand our life and live our life to the fullest.
Now, I like, before I let you go, I know in Ghana here, or in Africa, most Africans believe it's not possible to make it here until they go to the US, UK, and other European countries. If you do have advice for Africans, the youth watching, what would that advice be?
The grass is not always greener on the other side. The grass is not greener on the other side, it's where you cultivate it. So if you want to have your best life in Ghana, you can try your best to find your way to have a best life in Ghana. Maybe you want to try Nigeria. Maybe you do want to try the United States. Go through some education program, through some doctor program, through some foreign exchange program. You know, don't be afraid to see what's good for you and what's best for you. So not every African should go to America, but there are some of you where going to America is a great idea and a wonderful experience, and I really encourage you to take that opportunity. Don't be afraid to try to go to America, but also don't be afraid to do your best here in your hometown.
Has it all been worth it for you coming to the continent?
Oh, it's been very, very, very much worth it. You know, sometimes I'm hard on myself, and I just overwork myself, and I keep saying, "Oh, you can do more. What's the next list? What's the next thing on the to-do list? What's the next level?" But I'm very happy. I want to start country hopping again. I always say, you know, Africa is your playground. You know, the continent as a whole is our playground, and I'm ready to start visiting more countries, starting to fly back and forth. I haven't done that since, you know, 2019, 2020. And I'm excited to start, you know, going from country to country, place to place again.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you
And
for your patience. You know, I'm under the weather right now, and
it's all good.
he's been so patient with me.
It's
So
all
support
good.
the brother right here.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. Next time I might probably visit you in Elmina so we can document your life there. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you did enjoy, please drop a like.
I keep cutting you off.
Yeah,
when you do
go
that.
ahead.
Sorry. He's gonna put the book description and the book link in the description.
Exactly. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put everything down there, the description, and also everything is going to be there. Link to your Instagram, and also how do people get to you though?
Go to my website, AfricaCrossCulture.com. Africa Cross, like the cross, culture, like culture, history, tradition. AfricaCrossCulture.com. There you'll find my email. You'll find all my social media links. And you'll be able to get in touch with me that way. Webnation.
All right. Thank you. No problem. So, guys, please get through to him and then read the book, because you're going to get free, you know, ideas, what not to do. It would save you a lot of money.
I might have put too much in the book.
Yeah,
so
too much.
One day I might sit down and cut back on it.
You have to grab it before he does that. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and let's say bye-bye to them.
All
right. Peace
bye-bye.
out. Bye-bye.
Peace.